Hello everyone, welcome back to your favorite channel Drishti IAS. This is Divya Kavatra and today we are meeting to discuss a very important thing, that is how to read newspaper. That's right. In our sessions that we take every morning where we discuss the Hindu, PIB and solve a few questions, I've had repeated requests regarding how to read newspaper for self-study, right? We are taking the class, etc., but still we want to read the newspaper ourselves. So how do we do that? How do we go about reading the paper? How do we filter out what is important, what is not, and how do we cover up according to the syllabus, and whether we should read the paper daily or not? Many such questions have been asked consistently throughout our classes. So we thought that let's make a video in which we will help you to understand how you should read the paper and what should be your pattern regarding that. All right. So the video will have two parts. In the first part, we are discussing how to read the newspaper. In the second part, we will be discussing with you how to make notes. All right. So let's begin with how to read the newspaper and let's see what the recent trends have been in UPSC. If you look at the trend chart, you will see that ever since 2021, the dominance has been increasing. The dominance of current affairs has been increasing, and now it has become a constant to a range of 30 plus minus 2. All right. It has become constant to a range of 30 plus minus 2. And if you look at the paper of 2026, every single individual who sat in the exam has thought that everything was current affairs. Apparently, they felt like everything was current affairs, not only GS, but also CSAT, right? The comprehensive articles that were asked, they were also from there. The case studies that were asked, they were also from newspaper. Even art and culture that was asked was from newspapers, right? So the dominance of newspapers plus PIB is consistently increasing, and even UPSC is pressuring on the fact that you should work on newspapers and PIBs and authentic governmental sources, right? So now we are discussing, like I'll give you a few examples what kind of questions have been asked in UPSC pre-2026. Like the question was about a volcano which was declared a global geopark by UNESCO in 2025. A very simple direct hit question, but if you know it, you know it. There is no margin for guesswork, right? Exactly. Then there is regarding Madhav National Park. You know that National Park, bird sanctuaries, all these have been consistently in news regarding environmental protection, regarding various reasons, and we always pay attention to that, right? All right. So these are the type of questions that have been asked, and we're running a session for you, the Hindu live session we have at 8:30 a.m. daily, and there itself we got all these queries and questions regarding this. You can obviously go and visit those classes. We'll talk about it later on, but for now, let's start our FAQs, like what are the frequently asked questions, what are your doubts and concerns regarding newspaper. All right. So the number one question that we are asked is, why should I read newspaper? Why can't I just read monthly magazine and be done with it? Like monthly magazine has all the current affair topics and they're very elaborate and they have all these details. Why should I work so hard on newspaper every day? And why can't I just read the magazine itself? Well, that's a fair question. And yes, magazine covers a lot. But it is for revision. It is meant for revision. If you start reading only magazine, your own thought process is not going to get built up, right? When you read a news, you ask several questions, like what this is, why am I reading this, what part of syllabus does this relate to? And then by the end of the month, when you're done with everything, you get a magazine and you start reading and you're revising and you're letting all the extra information get absorbed, right? But if you don't read the newspaper, I'm not saying that it is an absolute, sense, but just understand that when you read newspaper, your own thought horizon expands. It expands and allows you to learn more and more things and to train your brain to understand what is important, right? And what is going around the world, to have a basic understanding of it, right? Exactly. So yes, you need to read newspaper. Only magazine is not sufficient because it is for revision. To revise, you first have to read, right? So you have to go through newspaper. Now, how to go through that newspaper, just understand. If we talk about daily newspapers, it will give you mains answer quality improvement also. Why? Because you are reading through it and you are getting a good vocabulary, you are getting a good expression, and you try to learn how to attempt this. Then you have a retention and comprehension also, because your daily exposure to it starts retaining, right? You get better retention and you have better knowledge of things. And then lastly, it gives you an active language that will help you in mains answer writing. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many dialogues written by people, so many paradoxes drawn by people, so many metaphors given by great writers. And if you just jot them down in a notebook altogether, you can just copy paste them in your mains answer and your answer becomes brilliant, right? So that can also be done. And monthly magazine, yes, that is also necessary. Why do we say that? Because it gives you a syllabus consolidation, revision, as well as overall coverage safeguard. Like by chance, if you have missed something in the newspaper, it comes in as a handy second source to help you understand that you don't miss anything out. Yes, exactly. So both have their own importance, and yes, you have to address to both of them. All right, exactly. Second question that we generally get asked is, should we read it daily? Like every day same thing is going on. When West Asia crisis was going on, everything the same things were there, right? So we have both standards for you. Just understand why you have to read daily. When you have to read daily, you have to go through it. You can neglect the entire paper, but then just once go through it, only then you will understand that whether there was a new news or not, whether there was something for you to read or not, right? Because everybody's knowledge base is different. Let's suppose there was an editorial regarding literacy. Okay, now some of the students have extensively worked on this topic from the perspective of prelims as well as mains. For them, this article would be redundant. But for the people who have not worked hard on that particular topic for so long, or don't have that concentrated content, for them this is like magic, right? For them this is like very good article. Okay, we're getting everything at one place, right? So you have to go through the paper daily to understand whether it is important for you or not, right? Don't just blindly believe that when somebody says, oh, today's paper was of no use. It might not be of use to them, but it might be of use to you because your level of preparation is very different. There are no two students, no two people who have exact same level of learning, right? So you might need it while others might not. And then you choose what not to read. Instead of skipping the paper altogether, you choose what not to read, anything that you have extensively studied on, anything that is not important for your exam, you skip out on that and then you leave the paper. Clear? Yeah. So we are not saying read entire paper every day, but we are also not saying skip the entire paper altogether, right? You take a middle ground, you find what is important and then you follow that. Is that clear? Yes? All right. This was our second question. Next question that we have is the time management. Like, that becomes the greatest concern, because when you begin to read the paper, it generally takes 3 to 4 hours. Yes, it happens. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. You're just beginning to understand that, and it is bound to take time, but at a standard level of timing, on a very good paper day. Mark my word, on a very good paper day, the day it has a lot of articles for you, it should take 45 to 60 minutes, maximum is 1 hour. When you have gotten into the habit of it, when you are able to analyze your paper, that at that point you have 60 minutes maximum. That is the maximum time it would take you. And the day you have like so and so news is there, even 30 minutes are more than sufficient for you to read the paper. That's right. You will come to that pace with practice and more reading. All right, with more and more filtering that you start doing, once your brain acknowledges what is important, what is not, what this might be coming up with, and what I can skip, right? With that, this time management will come to you naturally. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. At the beginning, it is bound to take time. Just let it. Let it go through the process, trust the process, you will reach at this point. All right? Okay. So one of the largest mistake along with that you do is consistently people start giving 3 to 4 hours and they are like, they feel a FOMO. They start feeling a FOMO that if I'm not giving 4 hours, that means I'm skipping something. No. Please don't fall into that trap. Just because you give more time doesn't mean you're reading good, right? You might be reading something that is not of value to you. You're not reading paper to become a writer or an editor, right? You are reading the paper to just grab the content necessary for your exam. So you have a lot to skip, all right? So this is the time management bound that you should have. And other than that, another question is, then comes like, if we reduce the time, we have to read something and ignore something, right? If you limit the time, you have to read some important things while ignoring others as well. So what should we read and what should we ignore? The very basic question as to what to read, what not to read. All right. However, there is no hardcore line drawn as such, but still there are some broad criteria that can help you filter out the news. All right. This is not hard and fast. Again, I'll tell you, there is no borderline where you can segregate the paper. You have to make the judgment on your own that you can develop by reading PYQs, addressing to the syllabus. That will help you build that critical thinking where you will be able to decide what is important, what is not. But in general, we have some categories that are segregating the fact. Okay. What are those categories? Just let's understand. For the front and main page, if you talk about it, there are many key bills, policy milestones, Supreme Court judgments. These you should read very carefully. But at the same time, they will also contain political speeches, local time stories, press releases. You can totally skip that. You can totally skip that. That is of no use to you. But then we come to the national economy part where we read about RBI decisions, macro trends and schemes. But at the same time, if you are into investing, if you like the stock market, you are generally bound to go dive deep into it. Leave it out of that. Leave it out of that. You can do that on your personal leisure time for sure. But in the newspaper reading time, please skip out on that. Yeah? All right. Then we have editorial page, multi-dimensional debates on governance and constitutional issues. Please read that. Pure political bickering. That government is doing this, Congress said that, BJP said that, AIDMK said that. Not of our business. Not of our use, not of our business. Let them do whatever they want. That's fine. You just take out what is necessary for you. Yeah. For sports and local, major international milestones like Olympics and, awards like Nobel that was asked, X, Mr. X, right? Remember that question tripped off a lot of students. Right. So routine math scores like everyday match is going on. You don't have to remember those scores. You don't have to remember those winnings. Totally skip it out. Totally skip it out. A sports page has like once in a week, maybe an important thing, or once in 10 days. That's all. That's all they have. Other than that, no major news are covered there. All right. So this is your agenda as to how to mark important and not important. Now, but amidst this also, how do you understand, like, from what perspective should I read this? This news is important, yes, but from what perspective for prelims? From what perspective for mains should I read this? For that, what you have to do is, you understand the news. For example, this is what we discussed in today's paper, all right? So we have a class every day at 8:30 a.m. in the morning, the Hindu live session that we conduct. In that, we discuss news like this, okay? So today we discussed that flash floods wreak havoc in Pahalgam. Now, talking about Pahalgam, talking about number of deaths or number of destructions or what kind of, no, that is not important for us. But what is important for us is the geography of Pahalgam, like why it is happening here and what is flash flood. What is flash flood? So that's why we discussed what is flash flood, what are the primary causes, what are the impacts, how can we mediate, how can we mitigate the process, these things. So you pull out what is important for you and leave the rest out of it. Leave the rest out of it. That's how you break down the news. That's how you break down the news. Now you understand this is an important geographical concept, that is flash floods. So you read about that instead of going on to read about all the article, Pahalgam. Now they will start talking about the Pahalgam attack also. So you'll remember that, then you'll start discussing about that. Oh, there was Pahalgam attack, now there is Pahalgam flash flood, what is happening to Pahalgam? Leave that to people, who have all the free time in the world. You just read about flash flood, you just read about the geographical terrain of Pahalgam that increases the risk here. Okay, that's how we do that. Then to understand where to read and what perspective to read from, what you do is you make a syllabus map. Like any news that you read, try to mark it. Okay, this is important for GS1, this is important for GS2, 3, ethics paper, optional paper. Add that. That is your mapping. That will help you understand why this is important and what kind of question can be asked from this, right? So your reading perspective totally shifts from just gaining the information. Now you are utilizing the information. You understand that? That gap has to be created. And then you dissect it, dissect the core problem, who is the stakeholder, arguments are there. You dissect the news completely, right? And then ultimately you prepare notes for that. How to do that we will discuss in part 2. But for now, this is the third step. All right? Okay. Now, most people ask that, okay, for news we can do this. Like for flash flood, it was very clear that we have to read about flash flood. But in editorial, it becomes very difficult to identify what to read, how to read. Okay. So how to handle editorial? Just take a look at this. I'll give you an example also from today's paper itself. I'll also give you an example. Okay. Exactly. So first of all, you ask the question, what is this article about and why has it come now, right? Like if West Asia crisis articles were coming, or if in today's paper you will see many articles regarding different decisions, regarding, if you see articles on New Zealand, if you see articles on Indian perspectives on judiciary, you will see something is happening. There is a reason behind it why that article is coming. Mostly, right? Sometimes we use filler articles also. Sometimes the paper has filler articles also because nothing is happening, so they use filler articles. But mostly there is a reason behind that. Try to understand that. Then understand who is affected, like what are the stakeholders involved, who is getting affected by this, what is the citizen's role, what is government's role. Try to figure that nexus. Then you link to UPSC, like what article is linking to UPSC, how do we link it to prelim syllabus, how do we link it to mains syllabus. You do that mapping once again. And then ultimately the way forward, you always learn that what is happening future, like is the issue resolved? Is this article about a resolved issue, or should I wait for an update? If you need to wait for an update, you always leave space in your notes because you have to add the update so that you don't have segregated notes, right? So always look at the way forward and see, will there be a continuity to this? Will there be more to this? Yes, then leave a space and keep adding on as the updates come, right? Exactly. This is how you handle the editorial. For example, in today's paper, we had this editorial, 5 crore Indians wait when the courts are on break. So the time summer vacation has come, 6 weeks break, court is going on 6 weeks break. So you see the what and why. Number one, what? Court is going on break. Why? Vacations are coming, right? So that is why the article is here. Now it is consistently talking about various dimensions to it. So how did we cover this? This is how we try to understand through mind map in a very easy manner that how can you break down this editorial. This is how you break down, you understand the what and why, then you understand who is affected by this, right? And then the solutions and the way forward, right? This is how we segregate it. And obviously, you can also do this. It is very simple. And if you need help, you can always join the class and watch this and learn. All right. Exactly. So lastly, mapping to the UPSC syllabus, as we talked about GS2, GS3, GS4, etc. You map every news to the origin, and that's how you cover it. That's how you cover it. All right. Exactly. So if you need help reading the Hindu newspaper, we have a session for you on the Drishti IAS English channel. Every day we have a newspaper session, every day morning 8:30 a.m. At what time? We have it at 8:30 a.m. Okay. And daily we discuss Hindu newspaper plus PIB plus question practice. We do daily question practice also. All right. Yeah, at 8:30 a.m. daily. If you need any help in reading newspaper, this is an English medium, completely English medium, and you can join the class at 8:30 a.m. and you can take benefit out of that. And for self-reading, we just discussed how you have to cover the newspaper, in what manner you do that, and according to the recent trends, how do you make sure you have covered everything. All right, that is what our session was about. And as many UPSC toppers have said that, right, and many educators also say this, do not read the newspaper like a casual citizen looking for gossip. Don't look for gossip in the paper. That is interesting, I know, but please don't look for it. Look for what your solutions are, like an administrator searching for the problems and their solutions. That's how you should read the newspaper. Okay, change the perspective, change the dimension, and change the story of your success. All right, that's about it. Thank you so much for joining in. All the very best for your preparation. And I hope the session was very hopeful for you, very useful for you. And wait for part 2. Wait for part 2 where we will discuss how to make notes. All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe. And do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.